Hi everyone. Well, Omarosa's out there, isn't she? Doing her hypocritical best to sink everyone in a 5 mile radius. Oh, go for it, Omarosa. These people deserve no better. Whatever. People have asked, do I think she's the woman who brings down Trump? I have to say, no. I think she's another chink in the armour. I think she's another nail in the coffin. She'll get a lot of exposure talking about awful and incompetent things that he does. That's okay. But I don't think she's the big one. So we still have to work on that. But after the anniversary of Charlottesville, I was looking at the Antifa protesters, and it struck me, viewers. Let me share a little bit with you. Despite being an old bag, I actually wasn't old enough for the anti-Vietnam marches, but I remember the vibe, the atmosphere, and seeing that turn things around. So when I did come of age a bit later, in the early 70s, and I was living in the UK, I was up for it, you know. And protests were exciting, but there was a huge ongoing debate then, and no doubt now. How should the left respond to right-wing violence? And in the UK, there was a particularly nasty group, the National Front, and they would aggressively attack minorities. There were a lot of nasty people out there. And there was this debate, why should the left roll over and the right, just be as aggressive and violent and never get a response? So there was the toing and froing about that. I ended up coming down with a foot in both camps, in the sense as with Irish heritage, I felt the IRA had a right to respond to what were war crimes, but that's another story, another long video. But other than that, I went for the peaceful protest. But what happened at every big rally and demonstration, demos as they were called then, you would get these ones coming forth wanting to start violence. They were supposed to be on the side of the left, and we were suspicious of them at the time, and years later they did turn out to be police plants. And I would like to think the British police has cleaned up its act since that era, but they were police plants, and the idea was to make the left look violent, and so they could be dismissed. And when I saw the Antifa footage last year, and again this year, my ancient radar went up. I thought, are these really young things stepping up to the good fight, or are they really nasties who are there to provoke? They're actually double agents. They're there to make the left look bad. So I thought, I'm going to do a reading on it. So for this, I'm going to use my Japanese cards, the French cards as I call them, and this is part of working out how cards work too. I don't want to use the Thoth deck, which I save for, the demons that are out there, and we read on so many of those. The Rider-Waite are always good and reliable, and I might have to clarify with some of those, but I want to see how these cards read Antifa. So I'm going to do just a couple of short questions. So, American Antifa. Tell me about American Antifa movement. It's now a generation on from when I was a young thing. So, are they authentic or not? Are they a mix? Who knows? Tell me about Antifa. Let's have a look. Now, viewers, this is very different imagery and it doesn't have the traditional suits. So they've got two tides, a winds and a fire. Okay. Here we have the three of tides, which is cups. That's the one of celebration in the Rider-Waite. This, I think, is the sheer youthful energy of Antifa. You know, they're celebrating their own energy as much as anything else. I think that's a perfectly valid signifying card for them. They're not into online campaigns. They're into getting into the street in a very out there fashion. They then get the King of Fire or the King of Wands. So they have a lot of fire energy. That is what they are about. They are deliberately provocative, and I don't think they're sinister because they are provocative as such. I'm just wondering about this group. And if you look at this King of Wands, ironically, a masked figure, much like the Antifa participants themselves. This is the Stranger of Winds or the Knight of Swords. Now, the Knight of Swords in the Rider-Waite is the galloping, somewhat manic horse, and it can be hasty revenge. Isn't that interesting? So this is the Stranger of Winds, again a semi-marked figure, a bit cryptic. You've got the feeling they're out there and then they disappear. But again, that can just be part of their way of operating. They might still be sincere young people. But the two of these together are making me a little bit suspicious, viewers. Then the Five of Tides, or what is the Five of Cups. This figure is pregnant, pregnant with possibilities in this case, but it's also the card of disappointment. So, are Antifa going to be disappointed, or are those on the left who are not supportive of violence going to be disappointed in Antifa? So, that was a general one. What's the story with them? I'm now going to ask outright, are they legitimate? Are these real protesters or are they plants? Is American Antifa legitimate? Are they the real deal? Antifa. Antifa. All right. Well, viewers, here we have, check this figure out, the Jester of Winds, or the Page of Swords, the Spy card. I'm not liking it, I'm just saying I don't like it. The Five of Pentacles, you know, this is the Out in the Cold card in the other pack. And again, you can see this. There's an element of despair to this. There's the crying figure and there's the obviously impoverished figure here. This is the King of Tides or the King of Cups. This is suggesting to me someone who is manipulating them. I actually feel quite strongly, viewers, I think they are being manipulated. I'm not going to as far as to say every one of them is a Russian plant or anything like that. It can be a mix of things. I will get back to that in a moment. Then there's the Nine of Wands or the Nine of Swords. Not a marvellous card, and trying to cover the very basics of modesty. I'm thinking, viewers, that I think they have been infiltrated, right? I had my suspicions. These cards, as far as I am concerned, bear this out. This does not mean that everyone who participates is bent as such. I'm sure there are sincere people, young things, who just want to take the fight up to the fascists. That's why they are anti-fascist and have legitimate passion about them. But the organisation, I think, has been infiltrated. So, and that can be, as we know, online, through Russian bots, and then other operatives. Doesn't have to be Russian, I'll ask that next. It can just be disruptive forces, can get in there and want to stir it up. As I said, the most common reason is just to make the left look bad. So, is it Russia? Is Russia interfering with American Antifa? Is it Russia? Yes or no? Is it Russia? Justice. Oh, the devil card. Oh. Very quickly, viewers. I think they have been infiltrated, and I think it might be exposed. The Justice card is there. The Justice card is there. There's also the Eight of Wands, comparable to the Eight of Swords, speaks for itself. I think there could be Antifa arrests coming up, but also possibly arrests of those who are orchestrating Antifa, because there is the devil. The Jester of Fire, the Page of Wands. I think they were a bit naive and innocent. I think the genuine ones were keen to get new members, keen to get new ideas, could be encouraged to go further than they would have originally had guidelines for on some level. I don't know how anarchic it is as an organisation, but they might have agreed to do certain acts and not other acts. For example, they might have had guidelines for themselves like, we will only respond, we won't initiate violence, or we will put up barricades but we won't burn cars, or something. They might have done that. They might not. As I said, I'm a child of the 70s. These were the sort of things that were discussed, so I assume these sort of things have been discussed. But I don't know how much even legitimate Antifa does that, or whether you sign up and it's a free-for-all. In any event, I feel confident in saying they've been had. Doesn't say necessarily Russia, but somebody, and my money would be Russia, you'd have to say. All right, well, I just thought that needed to be out there, viewers. All the best for now. Bye. Oh, I've got a million more things on my list. So many more things. Oh, I'll be back soon. Bye.